I'll get going, I guess. I don't think I've set my computer up that quickly, ever. So I'm David Ernst. It says on the program, I think, Christy Jensen and Nicole Allen. Nicole had to leave early, and I got scheduled to actually be at 2 presentations at the same time. So Christy is covering for the other one. So it's just me. So welcome, I'm the CIO at the College of Education and Human Development at the University of Minnesota. And I'm going to be honest, I really don't like this title after we looked at it now. I think we've all seen a lot of presentations this week about saving money, and this isn't really about saving money, this is really about getting there. This is really about the core of what we're trying to do is trying to identify barriers to faculty adopting open textbooks, come up with solutions, and the savings then come after that, right? That's just the natural consequences of that. So that's what I'm going to actually talk about today. I think the description did lay that out. We're going to be talking about barriers and how we are getting over them. And at the end, I'll also talk about the fact that I'll kind of invite you to join us. We're hoping to use what we learn to help other institutions get by the barriers that we've run into head on these last few years in trying to do this. So, okay. So we were talking about the University of Minnesota's Open Textbook Initiative. You heard it at the keynote this morning, a relatively small initiative, pilot, but again, our main goal was to learn, and to be able to help others. This will likely, hopefully, spread much broader at the University of Minnesota very soon, I'm hoping. But in the meantime, we're also reaching out to other institutions. So this is the question that I started with 2 years ago, almost exactly 2 years ago. I met Nicole Allen at a conference, and I cornered her after a presentation. I basically said, all right, if open textbooks are so freaking great, then why aren't people adopting them? I don't know any of my faculty who would have them adopted. So, and that's where the question started, and that's what we've been trying to answer ever since. So what I'm going to do is go through a list of barriers that we found, and then the solutions that we have come up with. These solutions are not the only solutions, I assume, but they are solutions that we have seen. And we are now going out to other universities in other contexts, and we hope to find a number of solutions to these barriers, but I'm going to tell you what we know so far. There's a little sense of urgency for change. You go to a faculty member and say, hey, you want to adopt an open textbook? What are they going to say? What? Right? I mean, there's no real sense of urgency about what the issues are. So our solution to that is faculty development. This really is an educational thing. They really need to understand the financial stress that students are under. So whenever I go traveling, I was at Purdue a couple weeks ago, I was at Maryland Lab this week. I dig up the data, which is easy to find, about student financial load. Show them things like this. Here's state funding, here's tuition revenue. This is basically how education is being paid for. This is Indiana. This is much better than Minnesota. Minnesota's is a much sharper curve in the other direction. So we can see the load is really being put on students. So show faculty statistics, and the statistics are overwhelming, showing that students are under a lot of load. Something like this. This is student loan debt. The blue one. This is credit card debt in our country. They crossed each other about 2 years ago, and the student loans keep going. That kind of thing. But financial stuff isn't enough. Actually, financial information isn't enough because some faculty have, and I can understand, they're kind of saying, well, students knew what they were signing up for, right? They should know that it was going to cost something to buy these books. Okay, well, that's when you start getting into the academic impact of it. And there's lots of this data out there too. It's not hard to find to say, you know, this is what's happening in your courses. I know you want the best book for your students. I know that. But the cost of it is one of those factors you should consider when you think about which is best. Because if you have the best textbook and it costs $250, it won't make any difference how good it is to the student who can't afford it.
I usually wait until
I feel like
there's a need in the class to buy the textbook and if I'm falling behind and I can't find another resource for free online that would also give me that information. And then I'll buy a textbook.
I have delayed purchasing a textbook until it was completely necessary to have it.
Yes, I have, unfortunately. I had some troubles because of it. Textbooks are obviously something that you really obviously need in order to do well in a class. You know, you need to have that textbook, and because it costs so much, I think a lot of people have problems getting the required text, and therefore they struggle in classes they shouldn't necessarily struggle there.
So these are students who are asked, have you ever delayed the purchase of a textbook? And a lot of students do. And so to give them the stories of the students, and they can then obviously see how it affects them, their academics, that has much more power than just talking about money. Right? They care about their students. They want them to do well. So if we did this with our faculty, if we went through and we had this discussion, how many adoptions do you think I had after that? There you go. There you go. Adoption, 0. All right, so what's next? Let's find another barrier. Faculty don't know that they want the solution, right? And so there's no call to action really unless they know there's something to do. And so the next step is, again, more faculty development, to really educate them on what open textbooks are. And oftentimes they think they're free books. No, they're different than just free books. Are there e-books? No, they're very different than that. And they may be free books, they may be e-books, likely are both, but they're very different. And they start getting confused about electronic publishers' books or books that are free but are filled with advertisements, and those are out there now. Things like that. And you have to be able to explain to them this, right? The basics of an open textbook, which is about the license, which allows you to do these things, makes them freely available, you can share them, so on. So what we end up with is a solution, a faculty development solution with 2 pieces to it. Faculty development about urgency and faculty development about open. Right? So there's an issue, here's a problem, here's a solution. You can do something about it. Right? How many options do you think I had after that?
Half of one.
0. All right. Why do you think that is? Any guesses?
More barriers.
More barriers. Yes, that's true.
The books are not yet as good.
Okay, quality. So questions of quality. I'll hold on to that one. We'll do that one. Anything else? Anybody?
They probably still don't know how to find them or where to find them.
Don't know where to find them. Good. I'm going to hold on to that one too because that's coming up.
Don't want to redesign the course.
Yes, it takes energy and time to adopt a new textbook.
Bookstore contracts.
Bookstore contracts may one too. That's one we haven't run into. But it's one I want to learn a lot more about because I know it is an issue on a lot of different campuses. So number one, faculty don't know where to find them, right? That was one that came up. And so our solution was to actually create a catalog of them. I mean, we went out and searched and thought, why don't we just make a website out of this? And then not only do we benefit, but the world can benefit. And that's where it is right here. So we have 140 textbooks in there. And anyone's welcome to go there and use that. Oh, there it is. So we can show them the catalog. We've got a catalog and we can point faculty to it. How many options do you think I had after that? 0. Okay. All right. So they know the issues, they know the solution, they know where to find them. Questions of quality is the next thing, right? They do care about quality. They care a lot about quality, and they want the best book for their students. So what we did is in the catalog we created a peer review system because faculty judge the quality of academic works based on their peers' opinions, really, right? That's how academia works, peer review. So, so that's built into the catalog. We don't have a lot of reviews right now. We're really just, I can get into why that is. We launched about a year and a half ago. I think we have about 45 to 50 reviews in there so far of the 140 books, but we're getting there. And it's a beginning, it's a start, but, oh, and one other thing. This isn't nothing either, and I have to, when I first cornered Nicole and asked her the question about why don't faculty adopt them, she said, because they don't know where to find them, and they don't know if they're any good. Those are the 2 things she brought up. They don't know the quality. And she said, immediately, what we need is a Research One institution to host a catalog that has a peer review. She immediately told me what the solution was. Why Research One? Well, right or wrong, they don't get questioned very often about their authority on things. Okay, so we have a peer review system set up. How many adoptions do you think I have? 0. Okay, I've got no faculty. So here's a response that I generally get from faculty at the time. It was kind of like, that's interesting, great, and they sympathize with it, but they're really busy, right? Faculty are really busy. And their course is going to go on whether they adopt a new textbook or not, right? So it isn't necessarily a priority for them. They have other things to do. They're trying to publish, they're trying to whatever. Okay, so we need some sort of an engagement strategy to get them engaged in the books themselves. So what we did was actually, I got our dean to agree to pay a small amount of money to the faculty to go in and write a review. And we can say to them, we have this catalog, we're trying to help the world understand the quality and find open textbooks. You could really help, we'll pay you whatever, you could really help if you could write a review. And we had 7, I think that was in the slide this morning, but we had 9 review. And it does take money. It was, my dean paid them $500, which is way too much
For one review?
for one review. Yeah, and the reviews are very light. I mean, if you look at the reviews, there were 4. This isn't a full. This isn't a full review. Yeah, you got to become faculty first. This isn't a full review here. There were several sections of strengths and weaknesses and whatever, but it still is a pretty light review as far as they're concerned. And it's for the whole book. They're not. It's not a typical academic book review where they're doing it chapter by chapter. No, we want something concise to put on the website, and really we just want. The other purpose is we want faculty to just stop and look at the book, right? That's really the goal of paying them to do that. Finally, you've got some adoptions. So we had 9 faculty adopt, or excuse me, 9 review. 7 of them ended up adopting after all of that. I mean, it took all of that, which is great. We figured that out. And according to the formula used by David and Nicole this morning of $100 a textbook, we'll throw that out there. Compared to the new books they were being asked, it was about, it ends up being like $145,000, something like that. Which of course, students don't all buy new books. They do everything they can not to do that. So we did it. Right? We got these adoptions. And the 7 who, I think I mentioned this morning, the 7 who adopted went back to their programs and convinced 4 others as well. So we ended up with 9 reviews, got 11 adoptions. So we realized that was a great strategy. So here's kind of what it looks like now. Faculty development, 2 different pieces. We have the review process, which takes some money to just incentivize them to stop and look. And then hopefully we can get to this adapting it to their use. I'll talk about that in a minute. But one thing we did run into a couple other places, we tried to replicate this. Let me just stop for a second and say that this is an ongoing, we're learning, as much as I'm saying user solutions, I'm pretty sure that we will go through iterations of this where I'm saying, maybe not. You know, in another year I'll come back and say, yeah. This model we found doesn't work a lot of places. It worked where we were, our dean was willing to do this, but what we found a lot of other places is leadership, vice presidents, deans, provosts, whoever, were not really willing to pay faculty extra to do what they saw as academic work, what they should be doing anyway, reviewing other people's work. So, okay, so how do we get them to review? If we can't pay them to, how can we not pay them, but at the same time pay them to review because they do? Well, instead, what we do is you pay them for faculty development and you make the review part of the faculty development. Leadership has no problem paying for faculty development, right? Tricky. So we just roll the review process into the faculty development model. So this seems to be a model that I haven't seen too many, if we can get this far, too many institutions balk at. Like, yeah, we can do that. That's pretty easy. Hold a workshop. And part of the workshop is reviewing. I just did one in Maryland on Tuesday. Right. So, although they didn't get the review part in yet, they wanted to save that for another workshop, the second one, which is fine. So we have the adoption thing down. And what I wanted to spend a little bit of time talking to you about is more that we're doing now. And we're seeing other barriers to doing things like this, to adapting it to their course. And we're trying to address it, those things as well. So here's a barrier that popped up on January 1st of this year. The original source for Flat World Knowledge went black. All their books were no longer open, and we had to figure out how to do with that. So what we called ourselves the catalog. It was a referatory. A referatory meaning, I don't even know if that's a real word, but it basically means that we're pointing to where these books live out in the wild on the internet. So you can go there and search and find them on our catalog, but it will then go out and you're somewhere else. So the problem there is that if the books go away, you know, they go away. We're not really in control of them. So the solution to that is to actually make a repository, to actually keep the books. I didn't do this when we first built the catalog because I am not a librarian. I don't know how to do this well. Right? But since then, I have had, so here's an example. You don't need this picture, I guess. Repository, repository, all in one place. Our university libraries at the University of Minnesota they've decided to host the repository themselves for the world, basically. So, thankfully, because I would never do it, because I don't know what to do. What we're going to be using is Connections, the new version of Connections, which will roll out here soon. It doesn't even look like this yet. This is the alpha version of it. And from Rice University, familiar with Connections? You should look it up. If not, it's a learning object kind of repository for open objects. It's going to have a whole new interface to it. The software is 12, 15, somewhere years old, so they're completely revamping it. And they're going to give us a copy of it, and we're going to be hosting it, and the catalog will live on top of that. Right? So we'll still have the catalog, but the books will stay in this repository so anyone can get to it. Okay, next thing that we found, faculty can legally, thanks to the Creative Commons license, can legally edit open textbooks, but how do they actually do it? How do they technically do it? You know, you have an EPUB. How do you edit an EPUB? It isn't easy. I mean, it isn't easy to figure out, I should say. You can do it, so we need some infrastructure to support the editing. This is another thing that Rice University is fixing up, thanks to Kathy Fletcher, who's been working on an interface for. This is actually the interface for editing interface that's going to be in the new Connections. This exists right now. If you go to oerpub.com, org, I don't remember what it is, probably org. She's been a Shuttleworth Fellow for, I think this is her second year, and her work is involving creating a textbook editor that's a WYSIWYG, easy to use thing. And when it saves it, you can export it in EPUB, PDF, MOBI, whatever different forms, like digital formats you want. This will be part of the new Connections, and we'll be having that as well. So someone will be able to go to the catalog, find a book they want, immediately go find it, get it in our version, in our Connections, and go edit it and save different versions of it, do whatever they want with this kind of an interface moving forward. That's pretty exciting, I think. So here's another problem. We have 140 textbooks in the catalog. Many of them are not in any kind of a format where you can actually edit it easily, like a PDF. A lot of them are in PDF format. So we want to take full advantage of the openness. If we want to do that, we want to be able to edit the textbook. So this is another thing that we are working on that we feel is really important, and it's kind of not a difficult thing to do. It takes a lot of person hours, but a work study student can do it. Right? To convert these things to something that's more editable. So we actually, that's what we're going to do. Our librarians have said, you know what, we have a couple hundred work study students sitting around waiting to check these out. So let's come up with a protocol, a way of doing this, if we can. We don't know that we can yet, but this is what we're planning to do. And we'll just go through and take care of it. Go through all 140 and check to see if they have EPUB versions. If they don't, we'll compare them. We'll edit them. So one thing as we're going around to other institutions and trying to help them see ways around these barriers, one thing we're realizing, and one thing that they are realizing, is they don't want this just to be a one-shot deal. They don't want us to come to campus, blah, 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 and a few people adopt, and then we leave and they're done. And there's no one on campus left to kind of support the initiative and help keep moving things forward. So one thing that we are developing right now is a toolkit to work with staff on campus to educate them about how to help support the initiative on campus. What is OER? What can you do? What's a community of people you can constantly talk to about OER, wide open textbooks. Likely, those staff, I'm thinking in most campuses are librarians. Librarians have that kind of mission built into them, that they want to share knowledge, and they seem to kind of grasp onto that. Whenever we come to a campus, it's librarians who kind of come out of the woodwork to see what we're doing. So that's what we've done, and that's what we plan to do. And in Maryland, I learned a ton on Tuesday. When we went to Maryland and ran the statewide workshop, it blew my mind. I still can't quite wrap my mind around it, because we ran into all sorts of other issues, and we now are going to go back to the toolkit, change that around, go back to the professional development curriculum, the faculty development curriculum, change that around. We're hoping that in a week or two we will find out from the Hewlett Foundation whether we have funding to go out to other campuses, funded actually, so that wouldn't cost the campus really much at all, anything, just to organize a workshop and put some staff time behind it. Again, we know we're going to continue to find new things, and we're going to continue to try to break down the barriers. There we go. That is it. On behalf of Christy and myself, thank you, and we have a few minutes for questions. I think 2 minutes. Okay. Yeah.
As a faculty member, one of the things that I ran into was the quality issue.
Yep.
There are a lot of open resources that use words like peer review, but clearly have not gone through the process.
Right.
There seems to be this understanding that peer review is someone looked at it versus, and the other problem is that a lot of these are being produced by people that don't have expertise. And that is, that's going to be deeply offensive to a faculty member.
Right.
To say, well, use this book that was created by someone who didn't do the work that you did. At the same time, because that exists, when you do have some really good books, it seems like there is, the good book is thrown out with all the others. How can we truly vet, maybe just a few really, really good open books?
The issue of quality is a sticky one that I can't say much about because I can't vet those. Right. All I can do is the only requirement to get into the catalog. It's a very low bar. It is, as far as quality goes. There are certain things, but as far as quality goes, to get into the catalog, your book has to have been adopted by some institution other than your own. In other words, it's good enough for somebody else. Okay, we'll take that. But then we really are going to stand back and say, any faculty member who wants to come and rip these things apart, go for it. We want to know what's bad. We want to know what to ditch. We want to know what to bring forward. Right now, we're not to that place yet. The review process, I get what you're saying exactly about kind of, we have a very light review process, right? I would certainly be happy to entertain any ideas on how to do that better. The two things I have to kind of keep as far as the purpose of the review, part of it is to vet the quality, but it's also promoted on a website with very little, it needs to be relatively concise. But the other thing is it is really it's a faculty engagement. It is an engagement strategy. And so making it very light makes it easy. All we want them to do is open the thing, look at the table of contents, and even see the possibility that it could work. They may then dig into it a month later and go, oh, this is crap.
They get a chance.
Right. But I would, and that's come up, we should do a chapter by chapter, like a standard academic textbook review thing. I would be happy, that'd be awesome. If we really had some deep knowledge of that, we would need more funding, I think. And we would need to figure out what to do with those reviews of that, but we could figure that out, I think. Yeah, good points, thank you.
I'm afraid we're out of time.
Oh, okay.
Maybe after.
Come on up.
Let's thank David for his.